Everybody, Legend for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new video. This time around, we are talking about the Valkyries. Okay, God, this deck is quite possibly like one of the biggest decks that people really want printed, and I can see why. This deck is very, very interesting. Although, if they do get printed, they're gonna need a lot of buffs because right now, if they were printed as is, minus this one card, they would be very underwhelming. So look at this amount of spell support versus monsters. Actually, I think, okay, yeah, there's one more, yeah, just equal number of monsters and spells. That's interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and get on talking about this. So first and foremost is Valkyrie Brunhild. Okay, by the way, these are Nordic names. I am quite possibly gonna mess them up quite a bit. Okay, as much as I love the Nordics, I get the names. Their names are not easy to pronounce. So Valkyrie Brunhild, level 7, 1800 attack, 2000 defense. It's a light fairy. While this card is in attack position, it gains 300 attack for each dragon type and warrior type monster on the field. If this card would be destroyed by battle, you can have it lose 1000 defense instead. So this card is very interesting. It's a level 7, so it's not as easy to get out. It has no inherent way of summoning it. Now, what is nice is that it does have a way of protection, but only by battle. And it only gains 300 attack for each dragon and warrior on the field. And 300 attack is not very much. So if they were to print this card, I would like to see it buffed in that if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could have it lose 1000 defense instead. And I feel like that it should count monsters on the field and in a graveyard for its effect of gaining attack power, kind of like Buster Blader, as that would help it out a lot. Because 1800 is not very good for level 7. Next up is Valkyrie Erst. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So it's a level 6, so 1600 attack, 1800 defense. Not very good stat lines on these monsters, by the way. So, once per turn, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. And if you do, this card's attack becomes that monster's original attack until the end phase. So, that's not bad. You get to get rid of a monster out of your opponent's graveyard, and its attack becomes that monster's attack power. So, let's say you're doing against Blue Eyes, you just get rid of a Blue Eyes out of your opponent's graveyard. Bang, this thing becomes 3000. But only until your end phase. So, I feel like that in order to buff this card up a bit, it should last until the end of your opponent's turn. It'll be a lot better. That or make this card a quick effect. Okay, so you can do it during your opponent's turn. That'd be a lot better. Next up is Fortune Chariot. It's a level 6, 1000 attack, 2000 defense. It's a union monster. We need more of those. It's fairy wind. Kind of weird how everything else is light, except for this thing, it's a wind. So, once per turn in your main phase, you can equip this card to a Valkyrie monster you control as an equipped card, or unequip it to special summon this card in face-up attack position. Once per turn, while equipped to a monster by this card's effect, you can have to equip monster's original attack this turn. And if you do, it can attack your opponent directly this turn. If the equipped monster is destroyed by battle, destroys the card instead, blah blah blah, standard union stuff. This card is not very good in all honesty. Okay, so it's a union monster, and it's a high-level union monster, which means that it has to be... It's harder to get out than it really should be, and it's harder to equip than it really should be. Not only that, but also its effect is very lackluster in my opinion. Yeah, you can have the equip monster's attack power to whatever, so it can attack directly, but it's not very good, especially when none of them have very high attack power. So at max, you're going to be going for like 900 attack power, 900 damage, unless like you are boosting up their attack powers with Erst or Brunhild and stuff like that. So, it's not a very good card on the over scheme of things. Now, what is nice is that it does provide protection for the monsters, but only by battle, which I feel like they could really update that so that it includes card effects, as that's what they're doing with the newer unit monsters as well. Next up is Valkyrie Swite. Okay, so Light Fairy, 1600 attack, 1600 defense. When this card is summoned, target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, if any. It's okay. It's just general destruction. Also, she and Drit over here look very, very similar. So much so you could easily get the cards confused. Just saying. Next up is the only level 4 monster in the deck, Valkyrie Drit. Level 4 Light Fairy, 1000 attack power, 1600 defense. This card gains 100 attack for each banished monster. Okay, so right off the bat, The stat lines of the monsters are terrible. They have one level 4, everything else is level 5 or higher, and they have no inherent way of summoning themselves out from their hand by themselves. Now then, if I remember correctly, some of their spells help out with that, but still, that is just really, really, really stupid. Okay? If this deck was printed, it'd be really, really inconsistent if you just keep bricking with all these high-level monsters that can't summon themselves. So, anyways, on to the spells. Actually, only if there is a Fortune Chariot in your graveyard. Select one face-up Valkyrie monster and half its attack power. It can attack your opponent directly this turn. It basically is Fortune Chariot's effect in spell mode. It's not very good. Swan Maiden, special summon one Valkyrie monster from your hand. That helps out a lot. And also, since they're all fairies, they do benefit from Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen, which actually might be support for this deck now that I think about it. Yeah, that was printed and all these weren't. So, Swan Maiden helps out a lot, especially considering how everything except for Drit is 12 or higher. Next up is Valkyrie's Embrace. Select one face-up Valkyrie monster you control and one monster your opponent controls. Change the battle position of your selected monster and remove from play your opponent's selected monster. Very, very interesting. I guess it's supposed to be like the Valkyrie hugging it monster you selected. Very interesting card. Helps out with things. Did I say Drit's effect? I can't remember if I did or not, but Drit gains 100 attack for each banished monster. It's very, very mediocre, but can gain quite a bit if you keep banishing stuff, which is the whole point of this deck. But still, it takes a while for it to get to any reasonable amount of attack power. Anyway, so next up is Ride of the Valkyrie. Special summon all Valkyrie cards in your hand. At the end of this turn, return all monsters special summoned by this effect to your deck, and shuffle your deck. Okay, so this card is really, really, really good, and the easiest way that you'd be able to get around that is by attributing them off, or by, well, more reasonably, overlaying them for an Exceed summon. So let's say you have I don't know, let's say you're going first, and you open 2 Drit, and 2 Brunhild, and Ride of the Valkyries. You activate Ride of the Valkyries, special summon your 2 Drit and 2 Brunhild. Make a Draco Sack and a Fairy Cheer Girl, there you go. Very busted, I wouldn't say busted, but really, really good card. Very, very good. Helps out the deck a lot, and just allows you to go for a lot of Xyz plays. Next up is Rainbow Bridge Bifrost. Oh god, I love all these little just awesome references to Norse mythology. So, the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost. Target one face-up Valkyrie monster you control. It gains 500 attack for each monster currently banished until the end phase. This card, my only gripe with it is that its effects should be permanent, okay? The attack boost should be permanent, as these things do not have high attack power. They do not have high attack power, so there's no problem with just using its effect and it being a permanent attack boost. The biggest issue I would see with this card is if you activate 3 of them, it could be game right then and there, depending on how many monsters are banished. As if you have 5 that are banished in total, including yours and your opponent's, that would be 2,500, and that'd be, 7,500 total if you activate all 3? That'd be scary. That'd be messed up. So, yeah, I'm feeling very just meh about this deck so far. It's a very interesting deck, but it's held back by crappy stat line and crappy attack power. Next up is Lodge's Flame, continuous trap card. Your opponent cannot attack with monsters that have 2,000 or less attack power. Okay, that's not very good. When a monster is attacked, destroy this card. Okay, when this card is removed from the field, you can special summon one Valkyrie Brunhild, this girl, from your deck or hand. And this card is very mediocre. Okay, monsters your opponent controls with 2,000 or less attack cannot attack. That is very, 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 very mediocre. Most monsters that are going to be attacking are going to have way more than that. Not only that, but also all your opponent has to do is banish their Cosmo Farm Girl and then go into a Substrider and pop it. That or just summon out Dark Destroyer, pop whatever monster you have, attack. Okay, Lodge's Flame dies, special summon Brunhild. Doesn't matter because you have crap stat line and your opponent is going to attack over it anyways. This deck is very... The monsters and the spells are good. The issue is the monsters having their very poor stat line and everything, and that the monsters have no inherent way of summoning themselves and having to rely so heavily on 2 spells. 3 if you count Valhalla. And then we get to this card. Golden Castle of Stromberg. I'm pretty sure this is why most people want this deck printed. Okay? And the reason why I put it over here is because it is technically part of the archetype, but also technically not. Now, there is one other thing that I gotta mention. It is stated in the anime that this card's effect was hacked and altered by the guy who was using this. So, this effect that I'm about to read to you guys is not its actual effect from the anime. So, we don't know exactly what its original effect was before the guy hacked and altered it, but I can almost guarantee you, I can kind of sort of guess which one he did. Now, that being said though, if this card was printed with this effect that I'm about to read to you guys, this card may very well be one of the most broken cards in the game. Okay. During each of your standby phases, you can send half the cards at random in your deck to the graveyard. If you cannot, destroy this card. Once per turn in your main phase, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your deck in face-up attack position. You cannot normal summon monsters. All monsters special summoned by this card's effect, and all monsters your opponent controls, must attack if if able. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy that monster, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of that monster's attack. This card cannot be destroyed by the effects of other spells, traps, or monsters. Effect monsters. Your opponent must pay this card's maintenance cost. Okay, so during each of your standby phases, you must send half of the cards at random in your deck to the graveyard, and your opponent must pay that cost. What? Once per turn, you can just summon out any level 4 or lower, random level 4 or lower monster from your deck in attack position. What? You cannot normal summon monsters. Kind of weird. All monsters special summoned by this card's effect must attack, and all monsters your opponent controls must attack. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, which they must do, destroy that monster. And then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's attack power. Okay, so they have a Blue Eyes or Dark Destroyer or something. They must attack, so they attack. That monster gets killed, and then out comes another monster. But hey, via Dark Destroyer. But however, then your opponent takes 1,500 damage, which I think actually might cause Dark Destroyer miss timing. I don't know. That is really stupid. And not only that, but also this card cannot be destroyed by the effects of other spells, traps, or effect monsters. So your opponent can't MST it, or Substrider it, or do anything to it. The only thing they could do is overlay into Gestel and bounce it back to deck. But however, if this card was printed, it'd probably make it immune to that too. This card is insane, and is the only thing that really made this deck good in the anime, in my personal opinion. Like, really, because this deck, it's just... Here's the thing with Valkyries. Here's the problem I'm seeing with them. First and foremost, too little. Okay, they don't have enough monsters, they don't have enough spells, they need more low-level monsters. They could also use a few more traps as well. Secondly, they have crappy stat lines, and their their attack boost effects are not really all that great. Okay, Drit only gets 100 attack for each banished monster. What? It's so low. It's not going to get even remotely relevant until you have 10 monsters banished. Granted, they'll discount yours and your opponent's. Erst. Okay, yeah, you can get rid of an opponent's monster out of the graveyard. It becomes that monster's attack power. That's okay. And then you have Brunhild, who is super specific with warriors and dragons that are on the field. This deck, don't get me wrong, it's interesting, okay? I like it. But it has so many flaws, so many problems. I don't even see this deck being able to compete with low-level, like super low-tier decks without Golden Castle Stromberg, okay? And if they were to print Golden Castle Stromberg, you know what's going to happen? People are going to play it in every single deck because your opponent's going to pay the maintenance cost. Okay? If this card was printed Valkyries would not even be really a thing, because this card would be played in everything else. Oh god. Unless they made it like specific to where you had like where you have to have like a Valkyrie in your graveyard or something to activate it. Then I could see it being a bit more relevant to Valkyries only. So overall, they need to give this deck a serious buff, okay? Everything in this deck needs to be upgraded, except for maybe Swan Maiden, and Ride of the Valkyries. These two are perfectly fine. And same thing with, actually, no, the spells can be left alone, they're fine. Except for Golden Castle. But however, the monsters need a serious buff. The trap is meh. I'd say 3,000 or less, and then it'd be better. And they need more traps and 2 to 3 more monsters that are preferably level 4 or lower. That would really give this deck a boost. Maybe also a trap that like increases their attack power, something like that. This deck is just, I can see why people want it, mostly because of this card right here. But however, it's just the monsters are so like just mediocre, especially in today's like current game and mindset and everything. So while I would be very happy to see them printed, I would really expect Konami to give them huge buffs because they need it. So guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day. See you guys later. Peace out. And if it is your birthday, happy birthday. Bye.